Oh, ow, that was a lot of noises and I've just started the video. Hi everyone, how you all doing? Hopefully not making as many pained noises as I am. But today, I thought I would share with you the culmination of a couple of months of work. One thing that I enjoy doing when I get the chance to is op shopping, or thrifting as many of you out there would call it. Thrifting is fantastic for many reasons, but one of the reasons that applies in particular to me is that it allows me to continue crafting or trying new crafts for relatively very cheaply. There are so many things that I want to try, either in regards to crochet, that are crochet related or that are different crafts entirely, but I can't really justify going out and spending a ridiculous amount of money on projects that may either fall through, not work out as intended, or just kind of end in disaster. So that's where thrifting comes in clutch. So over the last couple of months, when myself or my sisters have gone to the op shop, I've just kept my little feelers out for anything that I could potentially use in a crochet related or other craft entirely project. And this surrounding me, which you guys can't see yet, is the haul that I've got. And I want to share that with all of you today. I'm kind of going to use you as my sounding board because I do have a couple of ideas for some of these projects, but I would like your input. And I know in previous videos, so many of you have so many great ideas. So I'm hoping you bring that energy to today's video and you can help me figure out what to do with some of these other items I have. So we can work on this together. All right, where am I gonna start? I should have organized this a little bit better than I did. Okay, you know what, I'll start with maybe the non-crochet stuff. We'll get that out of the way first, and then we can get to the more exciting crochet related projects. So to begin with, I found a couple of embroidery hoops. Embroidery is one of those things that I do want to try at some point, some nebulous point in the future. I mean, it only took me about 5 years to get started on knitting, so that bodes well. But anyway, even if I don't use these for embroidery, they could potentially come in useful for a future crochet project. They're one of those things that I kind of have a vague idea of something I could do with them, but nothing really concrete. It's up in the air, open to interpretation, and I think you could take it in many different directions. So for me, the first thing that springs to mind is obviously some sort of like mobile. You could do a wall hanging, but there's probably many routes you could take to incorporating these into a crochet project. So if I never get around to embroidery, that could be something we attempt. So you guys can sit over there. I've also managed to find myself in the course of my scrounging through the op shops, several different kits. So let me grab them all out. To begin, we have a couple of cross-stitch kits, and I have two because, to be honest, I forgot I've purchased the first one. I found this one originally, and that was, it must have been 7 months ago, and it got like pushed to the back of the shelf that it was on, and I forgot it was there. So when I saw this one only about a week ago, I was like, yeah, cross stitch, I want to try that. I should get that kit. Whoops, I already had one, but that's no big deal. More practice when I get around to it. Like embroidery, cross stitch is one of those crafts that I've always wanted to try. I just never get around to it. My problem's always been whenever I think, yes, I want to try this new craft, 5 minutes later, I'm back to crocheting again. I need to just sit down and start it. So cross stitch is probably going to be a video in the future. I'm hoping these kits provide all the instructions that I will need, but if not, there's always YouTube. YouTube, for all its flaws, is brilliant for stuff like that. You can learn to do just about anything. So I really like that picture. I like the I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a leopard or a cheetah, but I like it. So we're going to give that a go. Let me know what you would prefer to see first, embroidery or cross stitch. I do have a couple of other kits here that I would like to get around to as well, but because they've been on my list for so long, I would like to try either cross stitch or embroidery first. Those are the kits. The first one here is a punch needle kit with a cool looking galah on the front. I don't know why it has white stripes on the chest. Galahs do not have white stripes on the chest, but whatever, it's a needle punch kit. It doesn't have to be anatomically accurate, I suppose. I wasn't actually familiar with like punch needling until fairly recently. Like cross stitch, embroidery, I never tried them, but I'd always sort of been vaguely aware of their existence. But punch needling was one of those things I'd just never come across. So when I first stumbled upon it, once more, that was on YouTube, but I thought, you know what, that looks kind of interesting, but not so interesting that I was motivated to go out and get a kit for myself at that point. But then I found this at the op shop and I was like, for $2, yeah, I'm gonna give that a go. So we'll add that to the pile of kits that will be potential future videos of me trying a craft for the first time. I've done knitting, I can check that off the list, though I've got a second project in the works. I'm not sure how long that's going to take me. I have a feeling it's going to be a while. Not only because, you know, obviously my shoulder's still buggered up, but just because I'm new to knitting, it's gonna take me a little bit longer than a crochet project of the same size would. But we will get there, we will get there. I'm determined to make at least a couple of knitting projects before I determine whether or not it's something I want to continue with long term. But that's not relevant now. What is relevant is my final kit I've got here, and that is a latch hook kit. And to be a bit brutally honest here, this isn't one of those crafts that I'm all that interested in for its own sake. But what I would like to find out is how applicable, like the latch hook technique. Is there multiple techniques? I don't know, I haven't started yet. But the latch hook technique, how applicable that is in, say, amigurumi. Because a lot of the time, if I'm making like fur, for example, I will just use my hook to do that. There's a lot of work that I use my hook for, which might be easier if I sort of took inspiration from another craft. And that's where my interest in the latch hook comes in. So I'm wondering, if I attempt this, can I take what I learn and apply that to amigurumi or any other kind of crochet project for that matter? Who knows, I might try this and thoroughly enjoy it, and then I might get hooked on latch hooking, but I'm not going to find that out until I actually try it. So you're going to go in the to try part. Oh, that was so close. You guys didn't see that, but everything almost fell off the table then. Stay there, stay there. But that goes in the to try pile, which is getting kind of large at the moment. I really got to get a move on and get going with some of these crafts. Next, what should I do next? You guys are fully crochet. This one here is going to be crochet adjacent. It's actually a little bit funny. In my most recent video as of filming this, which was the tie-dye and bleach one, in the hookup segment there, oh, who was it? I can remember this. Ricky's Creative Space, I believe that was the name of the creator, but she mentioned journaling in her hookup segment, and I sort of mentioned in passing that journaling wasn't something that really appealed to me. But when I said that, I knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to try junk journaling, because when my shoulder was really bad and I couldn't do anything at all, couldn't use a laptop or PC, I couldn't do any crochet, I was sort of immobile for a while there. But during that period of time, I was watching a lot of crafting videos, and some of the ones that I stumbled across were on junk journaling. And I was like, that's really interesting, because can you take that concept of junk journaling and combine it with crochet? And then a few of you in the comments on that previous video happened to mention junk journaling, so kudos on reading my mind. But one future project that I am planning, and it won't be out probably until like early next year, because I'm kind of working on a way to make it sort of a community project. I don't have all the details hammered down yet, but I'd like to do it in a way where anyone can sort of participate and make their own crochet junk journal. So I'm hoping that will be a bit of fun and also an excuse to use up a whole heap of the junk I've got in this room here. But all of that to say, I found this at the op shop. I think this one was last week. So it's an old, I'm assuming like wedding album or something. Originally, because I've got a couple of old scrapbooks. I did scrapbooking like 20 years ago at this point, or at least close to it. So I have a couple of old scrapbooks lying around, but they're quite a bit thinner. And I figured if I'm going to be using crochet on this project, that's going to increase the thickness of my journal quite quickly. So I wanted something that had a little bit more depth to it. And so I found this. It's probably a little bit longer than I want, but I mean, that can always be fixed with a bit of if I wanted to. But yeah, I think that is going to do really nicely for my potential future crochet junk journal. It was one of those things where I picked it up and my sister's like, what do you want that for? I'm very accustomed to that look of confused disbelief. But bugger her, I know what I want it for. So that's what this is potentially going to be. If you're interested in perhaps making a crochet junk journal or just following me on my journey, because this is not going to be done all in one sitting. I'm thinking of doing the cover separately and then like each page will be its own separate project, but we'll see. As I said, I haven't hammered out all the details, but if you're interested in that, I will be making a video of that probably early next year, and I'm going to put all the details up on Patreon, not at a paid tier, it'll just be on the free tier, so you just have to join the page, because if it does become a community thing, I think all the information and that will be placed there as well as on Discord. So you can join either of those if you're interested. But that can, maybe not because that almost fell over before. But that's going to go down there. So I'm really excited to get started working on that. I've got a few ideas percolating in the back of my head, but as I said, I'm just going to hammer out the details and make sure that if I do have that community element to it, we're going at a speed that's sort of good for a broad range of people. I mean, I know for me personally, I'm not going to be able to work on it all that quickly, so maybe that's a good thing in this context, but we'll see. We'll see. Now to get into the actual crochet stuff. These were another one of those things where my sister looked at me and went, what do you want that for? And that was crochet kits. Did I need crochet kits? No. Did I want to get them? Abso-bloody-lutely I did. I thought I had a third one, so either I'm misremembering or the back of the drawer has taken yet another victim. Rip. But for now I have these two. I have these cute little puppies as well as a donkey. And what I thought I'd do with these ones is not necessarily review them, because I don't think it's quite fair to review these kits when they've come from an op shop, because there is always a chance that they're missing a bit or something like that. So it's not the same as getting them from the manufacturer or the store. I wouldn't feel right to critique them as I would a kit that came from one of those places. But instead, what I could do was crochet up, for example, the donkey kit, but then make my own version and just sort of go through the process of how I would design my own, what I would do differently from the kit. I thought that could be an interesting project, and at this stage I have the donkey and the puppy dogs to do that with, and potentially a third one which may be hiding from me currently. I'll have to check that out later. But what do you guys think? Is that something you'd be interested in seeing if I crocheted myself the kit but then did sort of my own spin on it? And I wouldn't have to necessarily even do like the same thing, so I wouldn't have to do just a donkey. I could do a donkey. You can tell I haven't thought about this very much, but with a spin on it. I could do my own thing. So maybe I could give it a costume. I'll come up with something. I've put myself on the spot here and I don't like it, but I would come up with something to do to make these videos a bit more interesting, hopefully, and not just a straight I am crocheting this kit. I'd like to do a sprinkle a little bit extra on there as well. The other crochet things I have, we'll do these first because they're kind of the same thing. This project, or the projects I have in mind, something I've wanted to do for the longest time, but I haven't actually been able to find what I needed. And what I needed was some granny square blankets. Now, could I have crocheted the granny squares myself? Yes. But that sort of defeats the purpose of what I wanted to do, and that was to create a project from a granny square blanket. So I found these two. I only found this one last week. It was kind of a lucrative trip last week. I managed to find the blanket. I found that my junk journal case. I found one of the kits, and I found the embroidery hoops. So most of this stuff just came from last week. But there's that blanket. Gives me very like America 4th of July vibes. And then there is this one, which is kind of random colors, but I really like it. So it's kind of chaotic and mismatched, but in a way that I enjoy, in a way that I appreciate. My idea for this was to take the squares apart and reconstruct them into something that I would actually use or wear, because I'm thinking at this stage of making a jacket from this one. Could I leave them as just nice blankets? Yes, but blankets are something that I honestly have an excess of. When the cold bothers you and it affects your chronic pain as much as it does me, blankets are not something that you have in short supply. So I don't really need them for that purpose, and I would really just like the challenge of trying to take these apart and then reconstructing them into an item or object that I will get use out of. So I'm looking forward to doing that. As I said, my idea at this stage is to make a jacket, but there is probably so many things that I could potentially do with these. What would you suggest if you were going to take a granny square blanket apart and put it back together? How would you do it? What would you make? Because another thing I'm thinking is bag, but then I go, if I do that, I'm probably not going to use it very much. What else could I do? I'm putting myself on the spot here again, and I'm floundering once more. But jacket is definitely a front runner for me at the moment. Because this blanket is large overall and the squares themselves are fairly large, I'm thinking of trying to do like a long, is that a duster jacket, I believe? Something that is about calf length. But who knows? Who knows where this project could end up? Because it's going to be a while before I can actually attempt it anyway, so I've got plenty of time to think about it. So that is the blankets done. You can go back in the box there. And then the final thing, I've actually had this one for quite a while now. This is one of the first items I collected, was this mesh panel-y top thing here. Would I wear this as it is? No, probably not. But the reason I picked it up in the first place is I would like to try customizing it. How I would customize it, I've got a few ideas, but in all honesty, I'm not really sure. What I'm thinking about is like trying to perform surgery on it and cut it down the middle here and add some buttons. But obviously if I do that, I don't want it to unravel, so that's going to require a bit of testing to see what happens beforehand. Where I went from there, I'm not 100% sure. So this is something that I definitely want all your ideas on. What you doing? Sorry, my cat is interrupting again. Hello. Hello, old girl. Did you just want to cuddle, did you? Did you just want to cuddle? What was I saying? Cat distraction walked in. But what I was saying, I think, is that I would love your feedback, your input. What should I do with this? I mean, there's potentially adding length to the sleeves, there's definitely adding length to the waist, but that is a very just like generic, basic way to approach it, because there's so many different things I could do in order to accomplish those things of adding length, adding... I think one of your hairs got in my eyebrow. You keep making me lose my train of thought, okay? You keep making me lose my train of thought. There's so many ways to go about this, and then on top of that you got details you can add. Many avenues to explore there. I'm just not sure which one I want to go down yet, but I would appreciate any help, so make sure you pop that down in the comments. Outside of my specific collection here, there are multiple other things that I have thrifted over the years that I would like to use in crochet projects or crochet related projects. I have an entire tub of perla beads, I have pony beads and other kinds of like glass beads. I have bolts of fabric. There's like a whole stack of felt. There's many things that I have thrifted that I have good intentions to use. I just haven't got around to it yet, so I would really like to start using those things, whether that is incorporating them into crochet projects or doing entirely separate projects. Like, I would very much like to get back into sewing again. I did that, or I should say I tried that about 10 or so years ago and I enjoyed it, but then health stuff got in the way, so I stopped, and then I learned to crochet and everything else went by the wayside after that point. But I really would like to expand my horizons a little bit, and so in 2025 that's what I would like to do. And I think the crochet junk journal project that I want to work on could be a good starting point, a foundation for that, because while the bulk of it will be crochet, I do want to incorporate other elements, other crafts as well. Again, if you're interested, if you'd like to participate, just keep an eye out, because I will be updating all of you on that at some point in the future. As I said, it'll probably be early next year. I just want to make sure that I have all the details set, so I know what's happening, you guys know what's happening, and then we can take it from there. And I think that's all I have for you guys today. No crochet, unfortunately, but I'm still working on the shoulder. We're getting there. Slow progress is still progress. I thought I'd give you a bit of an insight into what I'm thinking, what sort of videos you could potentially see going forward. Let me know which ones you'd prefer to see, because, you know, I'd like to get to those projects first, the one you guys would enjoy most. And I don't really have much more to say than that, except... And today's featured creator on the hookup is the Knit Guru, or Joanna. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. But she says, I'm a Kiwi knitter and knit designer. Basically, I grew up and still live in rural New Zealand. I have been knitting all my life and recently began learning crochet. Growing up with limited access to knitting patterns led me to thinking that everyone just had to create what they wanted from yarn alone. I love designing amigurumi for knitting, and I'm currently obsessed with crocheting amigurumi, which feels like a whole new process. I share my patterns on my website and my projects on Instagram. I have a tiny YouTube channel where I share what I'm working on, and I'm working on creating more tutorials. Well, I think we should all head over to the Knit Guru and give her a subscribe to make her YouTube channel a little bit less tiny. All of her links will be down in the description, and so will a link to a Google form if you'd like to apply for the hookup for yourself. Thank you all very much for sticking around and watching this video. Sorry if it was a bit shorter and not quite as exciting as some of the others, but I've still gotta break things up a little bit, so I can't crochet constantly, unfortunately. But thank you for watching nonetheless. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it, share it if you think it's worth sharing, and I will see you in the next one.